Transport for London is one of the most famous transport networks in the world, with one study showing that the TfL logo is more recognisable than Mickey Mouse. Globally famous and locally loved, TfL is at the heart of London life, and this year it celebrates 25 years. Together with JCDecaux, TfL recently announced the expansion of the London digital network, major investment into out-of-home with over 600 new data-driven screens. I'm delighted to welcome Emma Strain, Customer Director at TfL, to share how the network continues to evolve, connecting and fueling London's economic growth. Welcome, Emma. Thanks very much for coming in today for this discussion. I know things are very, very busy, sort of win things, so it's much appreciated on this. Whenever we have these discussions, what we always start off with is having the person who we're talking with just outline their background, their experience, and how they've come to be where they are today. So, over to you.
Over to me. Thanks, Ian. So I'm the Customer Director at Transport for London. I've been there for almost 2 years now. So I look after all of our marketing. I also look after our all the information we give to customers. So whether that's our email marketing, whether that's social media, signage, maps. I also look after all of our commercial advertising, which is where we're talking today. Before that, I worked at City Hall with both the current and previous mayor, looking after external relations and events. And actually, when I go back before that, I was a programme delivery person. So I worked across housing and environmental programmes, making them more energy efficient. And my original background was in management consultancy. So I spent 6 years as a management consultant working across all sorts of different industries. Energy, oil and gas, banking, retail, did a bit of everything.
You did better, yeah.
So somebody once described me as a furious executor, which makes me sound a little bit like a serial killer, but I just like to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And I'm passionate about communicating and getting things done.
Yeah. Oh, interesting you say management consultant. That's where I started off my career as well.
All the best people.
Yes, indeed. I'd like to say that. All the best people. Maybe not everyone agrees, but that's
Audience
okay.
of two. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you look at London, can you sort of, from your point of view, just outline sort of what do you think are the main characteristics that make London such a great city?
I mean, it's just, you're right, it's an awesome place. I mean, you look around it, you know, the architecture, the history. It's a beautiful city. But what really brings it to life is its people, isn't it? It's incredibly diverse, and that diversity has always been part of London and part of the culture of London, and that's what makes it brilliant. You know, you can find, you know, all the best restaurants from every part of the world in London.
Yeah.
You know, you've got great food, great theatre, great bars, you know, but you've also got green space and parks. You know, the city's always been really strong on being sustainability. You know, public transport's a big part of that. You know, TfL is a big part of how the city works, but also that city's brand. You know, it's a really intrinsic part of London. It's a brilliant city. I love it. And you're right, every time, you know, every day people walk into and you discover something new, you see something new. It's just a brilliant place full of brilliant people. Yeah,
no, I'd agree with all that. I mean, it's interesting when you look historically at London. London was a collection of villages that was then sort of gradually was sort of driven into driven is the wrong word, but sort of grew into a network. And transport has always been at the heart of actually bringing those different villages and making London what it is.
When you think about the way the transport network's developed, it's sort of, you know, we've built a transport network and the people have come. And actually, even today, when we're thinking about all of the work that we're doing in developing different parts of London, transport was an integral part of that.
Yeah.
You put public transport in, and then that enables you to really maximise the value of those spaces to bring in housing, development, you know, promote economic growth of the city.
Yeah.
So
the metro land of the 20s and 30s.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Growth of the suburbs.
Yeah.
So when you look at TfL, so it's one of the most recognisable brands sort of in the world. They're you know, more recognisable than Mickey Mouse.
The Mickey Mouse, indeed. Absolutely.
So, which is an amazing sort of statistic. But marketing, how important and central is marketing to TfL and its future?
I mean, it's incredibly important when you think about what TfL does as an organisation and the huge breadth of what we look after. So, you know, that's, you know, the Tube, and buses are the obvious ones, but you've got trams, you've got Victoria Coach Station, you've got the Elizabeth line, but also walking and cycling, our various road schemes, major bridges and the red routes through London, all of that we look after. And that means that actually it's used by millions and millions of people every single day, and we need to tell those people things and they need to understand things. So marketing is a big part of our suite of communications, and we use our own network, so whether that's bus shelters or the underground or railway stations to really get those messages across. So marketing is incredibly important. We put out a huge amount of information to our customers through those marketing campaigns. And that can be around things like public transport safety. You might have seen there's a fabulous campaign which is really brightly coloured. You'll have seen it in various places. That's the Mind the Gap messaging.
Yep.
It's all of those kinds of things. That's really important. Like we look after our passengers and we want them to look after themselves and for us to look after them. But also, you'll see big campaigns there where we're talking to customers about all of the great work that we're doing to improve the network. And that's really important. They need to understand that there are times when there's disruption because we're investing in redeveloping stations or, resurfacing roads, and people need to understand what we're doing and why. And so we use our marketing campaigns to get those messages out there on a daily basis. So it's really important.
And sort of, if you look now, sort of about the 25 years, every journey matters.
Yeah.
Which I think is sort of embedded in everyone, sort of anyone who uses London's transport network. Yeah. That will be a phrase that will be instantly recognisable.
Absolutely.
Sort of when they got on there. So can you talk a little bit about that campaign? Sort of the aims and
yeah,
so
absolutely.
forth.
And it's one of those, it's a moment for us to look back and celebrate, but and look forward as well. When you think about the transport system has been around for many years longer than 25 years.
Yeah.
Parts of the tube are 160 years old. Bus network is, also been around a lot longer than that. Yeah. But TfL coming together is that 25-year anniversary, and then huge amounts have been achieved in that time frame. So we pulled together a marketing campaign to celebrate the 25 years, and we've pulled together a whole bunch of key achievements, proof points, if you like, and some of those are up on Poster Network now. So the ones, you're going to test my memory now, the ones that are live right now are celebrating the Northern Line extension to Battersea and Nine Elms.
Yep.
You might have seen the lovely Dalmatian with the roundels and spots.
Yes, that's right.
The Olympics, I mean, how could you forget that? I was around in those days, and it was brilliant achievements and huge amounts done with the transport system around then. And then to come down to a smaller level, baby on board badges.
Yep.
So they've only been around in that 25-year history. So a thing that I think now we take for granted, but are really important.
Yeah.
There we go. I've got to 4.
You go. Can I ask you a favour?
Yeah.
Well, actually, can I ask you a favour?
Yes,
not just for the 25 years.
Yeah.
Just across the whole. Is that allowed to ask you a favourite in terms of advertising? Yeah, your sort of marketing campaigns. Well, what is your favourite then? Yeah.
Well, in terms of campaigns, or I mean, it's too hard to choose.
Yeah.
Because they're all doing different things, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I'm very fond of the Dalmatian on the 25 years campaign.
Okay.
And if you've seen the digital version, he looks at you and turns his head and makes that sort of look that dogs make that makes humans go. So there's all, he has a special place in my heart, that dog, already, and he's only been around for a couple of weeks. But then you think back over time. I mean, the London Transport Museum is an amazing place. There's a poster gallery there, and the depot at Acton has all of the history of all of the posters and campaigns that have been run in London over the years. It's an astonishing place. So really hard to pick favourites, but there's some of the historic stuff is amazing. Things like you'll see the Tate map where they've used the paint to recreate the underground network. You'll have seen that one at some point. I forget who did it.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But from in terms of today, I mean, our purpose campaign makes me smile every time I see it. It's all focused around presenting that brighter future that our improvements are bringing to the transport network. And it's all shot on a sunny day. There's a little bit of sparkle in it, and sunshine and brightness. And frankly, in February we don't see anywhere near enough sunshine, do we? So for me, that whole campaign brings a bit of joy back on the network, and it's really lovely. From a marketing perspective, we're talking about all sorts of different messages. So you'll see messages in there about what we're doing in terms of lighting and safety and making people safe when they're travelling around the network. And you'll see us talking about accessibility improvements we've made to the network. And it's not just about shiny new buses and shiny new trains, but also about those wider things as well.
But when you look at your marketing strategy, what for you is the desired end goal?
Yeah, and there's probably 2 or 3 key themes. The first one is about getting people to use public transport more. And that's really important from a kind of strategic perspective. We have a target of 80% of trips being done by sustainable transport by as part of the Mayor's transport strategy. But also, there's an important revenue generation point for TfL. All of the money we make, whether it comes from advertising income or whether it comes from fares, gets reinvested back into the network to make improvements to the network. So that's really important. So there's that piece. There's a really important piece around safety. And we do a lot of activity in terms of campaigns for things like road safety, but also safety on the network more generally. And so those are really our kind of big areas of focus.
And of course, with the opening of the Elizabeth line as well, is an entirely new range of customers and destinations.
Isn't it fabulous?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It's a fabulous space, and the advertising on that network is wonderful. I was fortunate enough to do some focus groups recently where some young people in one of the groups said they just wanted the whole of the underground to look like the Elizabeth line. And I'm sure many of our customers would think that too. But of course, these things are slightly challenging when some of it was built 160 years ago.
Yeah.
But, it is connecting people, and that's the whole point, isn't it? It's enabling a whole raft of, new journeys and new options for people, opening up, employment, education, opportunities for people. They can travel so much faster to the places they want to get to, which is what we're all about.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a brilliant line. Now, one of the things I loved about the Elizabeth line campaign was when I was coming into Heathrow, I was in the baggage area, waiting for the bags to be delivered. You would see all these sort of various signs in different languages sort of telling people how to get use of the Elizabeth line and where they needs to go, and in all these different languages. Could you just talk a little bit about that campaign and the inspiration?
Yeah, and it was a really clever campaign. I mean, the Elizabeth line is an amazing thing. Of course, you arrive, but if you arrive at Heathrow from another country, you don't necessarily know about it. So, as a simple construct, like go to the Elizabeth line, the train's in X minutes, and that's how you get into central London. But being able to that's the wonders of digital out of home, is that we were able to match the incoming flight with the information in the baggage carousel, so that if you came in from Germany, then that information was delivered to you in German. If you came in from France, the information was in French. And that's all about making that customer experience, better for the traveller coming into London. And and then of course you've got the wonders of the Elizabeth line, which means you get on at Heathrow and you get off at Bond Street.
Yeah.
So a brilliant thing in and of itself. But it was a really powerful campaign, really successful campaign. We won a lot of awards for it because I think that timely use of digital and data to really convey information to the audiences at the point when they need it. Yeah, it's a really big deal.
Yeah, no,
we're very proud of that work.
Yeah, no, and so you should be for that.
Yeah, it's great.
And I know we talked sort of before. I think you referred to the virtuous circle of out of home, sort of, and also as well the investment in the sort of in network. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean that's really important. We invest in that network. It means that brands will bring their adverts to London. They want to be in the beating heart of this city. It's an amazing place. But also what happens then is that income, we take that income and that is brought back into TfL, and that's what enables us to invest in the wider transport network. Because we're not a profit-making organisation. We take all of our fares income and all of our advertising income and income from other areas, and all of it gets ploughed back into improving the network, which is really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One thing that I'm interested in are the metrics you use when you're looking about, for example, customer satisfaction or how people rate TfL and so forth, because that's obviously going to be an important part for you in sort of determining what people are thinking about networks. So you could talk a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, and we look at a variety of different metrics, as you'd expect. So, like most transport organisations, particularly, we have customer satisfaction surveys that looks at for each mode of transport. So whether it's a bus or it's Elizabeth line, we talk to our customers about what their experiences have been like and in their recent travel. But also we have a sort of an Uber metric above that, which is about how much do people think TfL cares about its customers? And it is as simple as saying, do you agree that TfL cares about its customers? And actually that's gone up over the course of this year. We're at the point where we're at about 61% of people strongly agree that TfL cares about its customers.
Okay.
And that's a really interesting one because it takes on board sort of all of your feelings about TfL. It's not just about your journey on the bus yesterday, but it's about your experience in London. So there are times when that's a challenge for us because you sort of think, actually, how do you influence that metric when it's so much about the whole city? But it is important because it demonstrates that wider responsibility, that we're not just about your last journey, but about how TfL is contributing to the city itself. So that's really interesting, I think. The other thing, of course, is that when you think about caring about our customers, one of the things that plays into that is how we look after you when things go wrong and there's a disruption, or when journeys don't go quite as smoothly as they might. And actually, the other thing we have alongside that is our equity and motion strategy.
Okay. And
that's a strategy which is all about making travel more accessible and more inclusive. So that strategy's got 80 odd actions in it of a whole variety of different things that we're doing to support customers' needs. Everything from really big engineering projects like step-free access in stations to accessible information on TfL Go, the app, so that people can plan their journeys, understand where, where escalators and lifts are working or not working. And there's that strategy is really important when you think about how people move around the city, the number of the diversity of people's needs, and that strategy is a really big part of what drives us in terms of how we're making improvements to the network, how we make improvements to our information that we're providing.
And if you look at out of home, sort of for TfL, it's something that's synonymous.
Yeah.
With the network.
Yeah, it's part of our DNA. I mean, can you imagine what it would feel like in London if there was no advertising? I think it would feel most peculiar.
Yeah.
And actually, there's very many talented people across the industry creating beautiful, beautiful adverts that you see all over London, all over the network. But it's also a huge opportunity for brands as well when you think about the degree to which public transport's part of everyone's everyday life. That you might be standing at the bus stop in your local area and you'll be looking at a poster on a bus shelter, and then you'll get onto that bus and think, well, that was interesting, and you'll pick up your phone, as we all do these days, and then you progress from there. So the out of home advertising is a real gateway into digital, which for me is increasingly becoming a really crowded space. We're all addicted to our phones, but you get to the point where they're endless doom scrolling and it becomes quite saturated. So out of home is the gateway into all of that. You see large format, really good quality screens and advertising, and that sparks your interest, and then that takes you into the digital space. So for me, it's really important. It's becoming more and more important when you think about, people don't watch television in the same way they used to. So linear television is, advertising is expensive and reaching less people.
Yeah.
Where are those people? Well, they're video on demand and they're using those formats, but actually they're still going to work. They're still travelling around, and their headspace is increasingly less cluttered when they're walking around London than it is when they're sat in front of their devices. Yeah.
No,
so for me, it's a huge opportunity.
That's a very, very good point, sort of in terms of that. And I know that from my own experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of how much impact those ads actually have. Now, you just recently announced an 8-year partnership with JCDecaux, sort of you're now one of TfL's partners.
Absolutely.
Can you just walk through some of the plans you'll have there? Because I'm sure they're going to be, extensive and great and so forth. Yeah,
absolutely. But... And a big part of that, it's a fantastic partnership. We were delighted, to bring them on board as a partner again, because we've been working with them for a number of years, and they're a brilliant organisation doing great stuff. Part of the new partnership will be more investment in digital advertising screens across the bus shelter network across London, which is really exciting because, of course, those digital screens are bigger, more vibrant, and they will have even more standout than they do today. So more of that will be coming as part of the new contract, and actually coming quite quickly as well. Yeah. So we're all hitting the ground running and getting this stuff on the ground as quickly as possible, so that audiences can benefit and brands can benefit too.
And it's interesting as well. I mean, you mentioned in terms of the bus network. I think sometimes what people, advertisers, forget is that actually you can get a different audience using the bus.
Absolutely.
Than you can from the tube.
Yeah, I mean, London is a city of 9 million people. Yeah. We have visitors from everywhere. You have every walk of life on every mode of transport, really. But the bus particularly it's that breadth of penetration, because the rail network, for reasons that are obvious, isn't everywhere. Yeah. Yet the bus network is, and actually that penetration and that breadth across London, coupled with the use of data is a really useful thing for brands to be able to say, actually, who do I want to target? Am I looking for somebody who lives in, for people who live in this particular area of London? Am I looking for people who eat ice cream on a Wednesday? Actually, all of the data and targeting enables brands to be able to put together a really clear package that focuses on the audiences they want to target. And the network density across the whole of London is just huge. So actually, you really can get quite precise about how you find your audiences and access to that 9 million, the 9 million people that live in London.
Yeah. No,
and those that visit every day.
No, as you say, I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Just how far
Really
it spreads.
Yeah.
Sort of
It
across
really is.
there.
Everywhere you go, there's a bus stop with an advert on it.
Yeah. Now, I said at the beginning that we always ask our guests sort of just go through their background.
Yeah.
And always at the end, we always ask them if you're what piece of advice would you give for marketeers?
So I think for me, it's about not thinking about audiences as a homogenous group.
Okay.
So when I think about Londoners, there's every demographic, every age group, because it's such a big audience, of course. But we also have to remember not to think about them as a whole. Like when I think about customers, I try to think about them in that as individuals too, as opposed to just what somebody once described to me as self-loading freight. People who just get themselves onto public transport. That's not what we're talking about. And inclusivity is a really important part of that. People have many different and diverse needs. A quarter of the population have some form of disability or access need. That might be temporary, it might be permanent. And we really need to think about our audiences as people. For me, that's really important. And that, we're doing a lot of work to make the transport network more accessible. But it's for all of us is important. People want to see themselves in the marketing, don't they? They want to see people who look like them and feel like them.
Yeah.
So that diversity point and that thinking about people, in that rich tapestry and diversity of the population is really important. And I think it's too easy to sort of slip into sort of stereotypes and tropes that actually, we have to think about the diversity of London as the thing we're celebrating, and that's an opportunity for marketeers. But it can make things more complicated too.
No, of course. No, naturally. As with some of the best things in life.
Absolutely.
Emma, thank you so much. That's been superb.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great to hear about TfL's exciting plans and how you keep customers at the heart of the business, delivering not only seamless journeys, but also fantastic results. If there is anything you would like to ask us or hear more about, you can visit the JCDecaux Marketing Hub online. We hope you enjoyed listening. And wherever you get your podcasts, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.